Hello Year 10, welcome to the next video, which is helping you to look at how Hitler consolidated his power, which means strengthened his power. So we're looking at the booklet that says Hitler's consolidation of power. This is lesson 2 out of 2, so you should have, for the last lesson, done the Reichstag fire and how Hitler used the Reichstag being set on fire to consolidate his power. Now we're going to look at another event called the Night of the Long Knives. So as usual, I'm going to talk you through slides. At various points, I'll tell you to pause the clip so that you can fill in the information in your booklet. And then when you play the clip, I'll go through the answers and move on to the next task. There is going to be an exam question at the end of this as well, which is at the end of your booklet, which is a source analysis question. So we have done it before for medicine, so I'm not going to spend too long on it, but I am going to dedicate the end of this video to looking at it. And again, you can pause that at any point. So what you might want to do is do the Night of the Long Knives now, go away, even, maybe do the source question another day. Okay, so pick up the end of this clip another time. Okay, both need to be done by the end of this week, though. Okay, so Night of the Long Knives. Hopefully you're on the right page. So it's the page after the Enabling Act mind map on the booklet. First thing that you will see is a picture of the SA. Pause the video, and around the picture I want you to just label anything that you can remember, literally anything that you can remember about the essay, label it around. So pause the video, do that, and we'll go through the answers together. So I did leave you a couple of hints there. Hitler and Rom with the SA troops. The flags are from different units across Germany, so the word Rom there, hopefully you've put that Rom was the leader. I've put a couple of things around the outside. There might be things that you've got as well. So they were Hitler's own private army. Did you put that? Well, you probably didn't put this one, but a lot of them are members of working class. So they're working class men, workers, poor people, and they're socialists. That's very important to get down. So if you were to say what political ideology were they communists, socialists, capitalists, nationalists? They're socialists. So they believe in the rich helping the poor. They helped Hitler get into power, so they were with him on the Munich Putsch. They beat up people in the communists, don't they? They intimidate people to vote for Hitler. Their leader was Rom, we've said. They're known as the brown shirts because of their uniform. They were known, what else could you put? They used violence, they had their own uniform, they used the swastika, they had the Nazi salute, made up of men. There's quite a few things that you could put there. I've just added that the SA are going to take them over eventually and be known as Hitler's bodyguards, but you don't have to put that. Okay, so make sure you've labelled that with everything that you know. So the Night of the Long Knives is going to be about the SA. What's going to happen to the SA? Okay, so Hitler is a little bit concerned about the SA in 1933-34 after he's become the Führer of Germany. So I want you to tell me, why would Hitler be a little bit concerned about the SA? Think about all the things you know about the SA. Think about the leader of the SA in particular. So I've got some keywords there that if you literally just go through them, you should be able to string them into sentences and therefore tell me why Hitler is concerned with the SA. So Ernst Röhm is the leader of the SA. Why is Hitler concerned with them? Look down the list of words. Ernst Röhm was a massive socialist. The Nazi Party was called the National Socialist German Workers' Party. So Röhm is saying to Hitler, well, you're very nationalist, you're very much about making Germany great again. Where is your socialist heart? And he's always bothering Hitler to do things to make the life of poor people easier and to kind of say stuff it to the rich people. But Hitler's getting money from the rich people, so he's saying no. So Röhm's getting a little bit annoyed about that. There's 3 million people in the SA in 1933, so I've got that one down at the bottom there. So have a think about and just see how many of those words you can write down. Just a couple of sentences. Tell me why Hitler was concerned with the SA. Pause the video so that you can do that. I won't be going through the answers to this one. I'll just have to look at them when I get your booklet in. Okay, so the next page is the events of the Night of the Long Knives. So there is a clip that I would like you to watch. It's 10 minutes long. I'd love to include it in this video, but it's got talking in it. What happens is it kind of echoes, because it'll have me talking over it and then the person in the clip. So I can't include it in this video. So you are going to have to pause this video and watch the clip on a different tab or whatever. So it is on the Germany playlist on the CCBC History YouTube channel. I will also be uploading it into the clips section of SharePoint. I will also be uploading it into the Germany section of SharePoint, and I've also written down the URL, or the URL of where you can find it in YouTube. Okay, it's about 10 minutes long. I did the notes by watching it once, pausing it when I needed to, but because it's only 10 minutes long, if you wanted to watch it twice, then that's fine as well. Again, it's, you know, if you're working from home, this is your own time, it's whatever works best for you. So, as usual, whenever we get a big event, like the Night of the Long Knives, we break it into 3 categories: what caused that event, what was leading up to it, the event itself, and the aftermath of that event. Okay, so watch the clip. The first part is telling you why Hitler is annoyed with the SA. The main part is telling you what happened, and then you can either think about the consequences yourself, or it is the last part of the clip as well. So pause this, find where you're going to watch the clip. Are you going to get it off YouTube, or are you going to go onto SharePoint and find it? Watch it, take notes on your booklet, and then come back to this clip, find the right place, and I'll go through the answers with you. Okay, welcome back. I hope that was all okay for you. So, in terms of Night of the Long Knives, it all happens on the 30th of June in 1934. I've put the Enabling Act at the start. The Enabling Act means that Hitler can do anything he wants, which is why he can do something as crazy as the Night of the Long Knives, where he essentially does a hit list of everybody he's ever hated and has them killed. It's because of the Enabling Act that he can get away with doing that, because he's got all the power in Germany. Why does he target the SA? Ernst Röhm is a threat to Hitler because he's the leader of the SA, so he's going to target him. The SA are 4 million strong by 1934. They're stronger than the German army, so they are a massive threat. Hitler is worried that Röhm will try to overthrow him using the SA. That's essentially the causes. So I'm going to begin with Goering, who's the leader of the army, and Himmler, who's the leader of the SS. They make up evidence that Röhm is a traitor. I think they kind of made up papers that he'd been getting money off France to overthrow Hitler or something like that. So Hitler uses this as an excuse to arrest Röhm. What he does is he says to Röhm and the SA, "You're doing a great job, go off on retreat, go to this lovely lake house hotel place, take all your top officers and have a rest." Whilst there, Hitler goes over there with some SS soldiers and they arrest Röhm at gunpoint. Hitler and Goebbels have made a list of all of Hitler's enemies, so they used this event. So they said, oh, you know, the SA are going to overthrow us. We've arrested them. We've also gone about and arrested all these other people that could potentially be my enemies. But it was a planned thing. He'd made that list a long time ago, and now he's thinking to himself, great, I'm going to use this as an excuse to check off all these enemies. So people that stopped the Munich Putsch, he has them killed. People that took his power in the Reichstag, he has them killed. So I would put that Hitler and Goebbels have made a list of other enemies. SS soldiers go about killing people on the list over a period of 24 hours. So from the 30th of June to the 1st of July, would it be? Röhm, what happens to Röhm? So he's been arrested and put in prison for these 24-hour period. At the end of that 24 hours, he's given a pistol and told to kill himself. They're doing that because they're going to make it look like he was a traitor and he killed himself to avoid punishment. Röhm knows this, so he refuses. He says, if you're going to kill me, you're going to kill me. I'm not going to make it look like I was a traitor. So the officer shoots him in his jail cell. So that's the end of Röhm, Hitler's friend, Hitler's trustee, Hitler's ally, leader of the SA. Hitler's had him killed. So, consequences of the Night of the Long Knives. Hitler's enemies are gone. They think about 400 people were killed in a period of 24 hours. 400 people that had ever said anything bad about Hitler or stopped Hitler from coming into power. And you know, if you're thinking about von Kahr, the guy from the Munich Putsch, the Munich Putsch was 1923. This is 1934. So he's having enemies killed that were his enemies 12 years ago. That's mad, isn't it? The SA now no longer exist. The leader's been killed. Top officers, about 200 officers from the SA, have been arrested or killed. So they no longer exist. Anybody who was a member of the SA either leave, or most of them are told to join the army or the SS. So the SS replace the SA as Hitler's now, they're called bodyguards. It shows how powerful Hitler was, that he could get away with anything he wanted. So he's had 400 people killed in 24 hours and nobody does anything about it. He makes a speech about it where he says that there was a rebellion and 70 people were killed, but they had to be killed because they refused to stand down. And because he's got complete control of the press, because of the Enabling Act, there's nobody there to really say, actually, you killed 400 people for no good reason. So he gets away with everything that he wants. This is why you would consider this to be Hitler's final step to complete and absolute power over Germany. It began with him being leader of the German Workers' Party in 1920, and now it's finished in 1934. With the Night of the Long Knives, he's killed 400 of his enemies. He's now got nobody that can be a threat to him or tell him what to do. So Night of the Long Knives is a huge moment for Hitler because he has now fully consolidated his power. He is the most powerful person in Germany. This is the transformation then from SA to SS. You might recognise the black uniform more because you'd see that in more like World War II films and things like that. So the brown shirts are the 20s as Hitler's coming into power. They're then got rid of in 1934 because of the Night of the Long Knives, and you now have the SS, which are the black uniforms. These are the ones that you're going to see in the 30s and the 40s as Hitler declares war. We've got World War II. They're the ones that run the concentration camps, so you'll see them a lot if you're talking about concentration camps and the Holocaust. And they've got very iconic black uniform with the red swastika armband. So there you go. So that's that. So that's the content part. Next part of this video is going to be looking at the exam question. Okay, so like I said, if you want to go off and have a break now, have a cup of tea, have some lunch, go for a walk, or even maybe come back to do this exam question tomorrow, or end of the week or something like that. Okay, whatever works best for you. Yeah, and whenever you're watching this, remember to go back to the front and fill up the focus questions. Okay. Right then, source usefulness question. So, turn to your booklet that says exam question, which source is most useful? Like I said, we've done this type of question before. So this is going to be a question 4 in the Germany paper. You're going to be given a topic to discuss using 2 sources. And you have to analyse both of the sources and then decide which one is the most useful for the historian that's studying that topic. So it might be that the topic is hyperinflation, that's what the historian is studying. So you'll be given 2 sources on hyperinflation and you have to say which one would be the best one for a historian to use. It's the exact same as question 2 from the medicine paper. The only thing that's different is in Germany it's worth more marks. Okay, so you can talk a little bit more. Okay, so this is similar to what's written in the bullet points at the top of your booklet. Okay, so you can either read through the ones here or you can read through the ones on the slide. So the first thing that you need to do, it says comparing interpretations. It should be comparing sources at the top of that slide. So the first thing that you do when you get given any exam question is you underline or highlight key parts of the question. So like, for example, if I use the question of hyperinflation, then that's what you want to highlight because that's the only thing you want to talk about in the sources is the focus of the question. So if the focus of the question is hyperinflation, You only want to talk about how good is this source and telling us about hyperinflation. Okay. So how do we structure this type of question? I'm going to ask you to structure it into 3 paragraphs. Paragraph 1 is going to be analysing the first source. Now, when we analyse a source, we use the 5 W's to pick out a strength and a weakness. Now, remember, we want to split the strengths and the weaknesses into content, strength and weakness, attribution, strength and weakness. This creates a CAC paragraph. We used to call them COOP, now we call them CAC to make them shorter and easier to do. So C stands for content. So what does the source tell us is a strength? Is this true, or is the source missing something out, would be a weakness. Then for attribution, that's the bit at the bottom of the source, or sometimes at the top, that will say things like who made the source, when was it made, what's the name of the book that it comes from, and stuff like that. So again, look at that and come up with the strengths and weaknesses from that. Then we'd usually write conclusion. So we'd say, well, overall this is a really good source, or overall this is a really bad source. And we'd give 2 reasons why, because 2 is the magic number. But because I'm going to ask you to do a conclusion at the end where you say which source is the best, I think to save time, don't do a conclusion for each source. So save yourself a bit of time there. So I've put that in red to show that it's optional, and I would probably avoid it because you're going to end up repeating yourself later on. So just do content, strength and weakness, attribution, strength and weakness. Do the same thing for the second source. Okay, again, read through it. What the source tells us is a strength, what the source is leaving out is a weakness. Attribution, good and a bad thing. Done. Then paragraph 3 is a conclusion. So again, look at both sources and decide which one would be the best one for the historian. I would break it down again into content, attribution, and those should be your 2 reasons. So it might be that you choose source A because content wise it gave you loads of information about, let's say, hyperinflation, and then you might pick something from the attribution and you might say it's a really trustworthy author. Yeah. Again, you can do a yes but no conclusion. I don't know if you remember those, where you say yes, source A is the best, here are my 2 reasons why, but I also know that it's got a weakness, or but this is why I didn't choose the other source, because the other source sucks because it didn't tell us anything, or it wasn't made at the time, or something like that. I hope that made sense. That was a bit waffly. Yeah, so pretty much that's what those bullet points are saying in your booklet as well, isn't it? Remember to always explain why things are good and bad. So when you're saying something like the author is a strength, can you tell me why the author is a strength? It was made at the time, which is good. Can you tell me why it being made at the time is a good thing? This one's an 11-mark question, so I'm recommending 15 minutes that you take on this. Obviously not now, because we haven't done a question like this in a while. I'm talking about year 11 here, but you'll find that the more you do CAC paragraphs, the quicker you'll be doing them. Yeah, so like I've said, we're going to go through the 5 W's to work out what's good and bad. Okay, so on your booklet, I've screenshotted this that's on the slide here. So this is going to be the example question that we look at. Get yourself a highlighter, because we always start a question by highlighting the focus of the question. So this question is, which of the following sources is more useful to an historian studying the threat posed by the essay in June 1934? So it will always start with which source is most useful to an historian studying. What the historian is studying is the thing that changes, is the focus of the question. So always highlight that. So when we look at these 2 sources now, that's the only thing we're thinking about. One of these sources is going to be much better at telling us why the essay were a threat, and therefore that's the one you're going to suggest is the most useful to the historian, if that makes sense. Okay, so I've highlighted that one. We're going to do source E together on this PowerPoint and video, and then I'm going to leave it and you're going to do source F and the conclusion yourself. Okay, so let's read through source E. I've highlighted in green the parts of the source that tell us content-wise the threat posed by the essay, and then in yellow I've picked out strengths and weaknesses from the attribution. Okay, that's going to help us write our CAC paragraph. Okay, so source E is an announcement made by Ernst Röhm, leader of the SA, on June the 7th, 1934. It followed a long interview with Hitler. And he says, I have decided to follow the advice of doctors and take a cure, go to a health spa to restore my energies which have been severely strained by a painful nervous complaint. 1934 will require all the energies of every single SA fighter. I recommend, therefore, to all SA leaders to begin organising leave now in June. Therefore, for some SA leaders and men, I expect the SA to return on the 1st of August completely rested and refreshed. Source E is actually quite hard because it's not very obvious the threat that the SA pose. So I highlighted that 1934 will require the energies of every SA fighter, because that's a bit like Röhm saying, everybody get your rest because 1934 is going to be a busy year for the SA. So what's that implying? It's implying they're a threat because they've got some sort of big event planned for 1934. That means they all need to make sure they've got their energy. Does that make sense? He's organising leave. That means, and I've linked that with, after a long interview with Hitler, he says, I'm organising leave. So if you put those two together, it's kind of saying that Hitler's telling us all to go on holiday. So Hitler thinks that we're such a threat that we need to go away for a bit. This is why this is hard, because it's all kind of like reading between the lines quite a lot, which is why I'm helping you with that one. So for the two things I pick out, Hitler's making them all go off on holiday because he thinks they're a threat, and it's kind of hinting, Röhm's hinting here that they have got a plan for 1934. They are going to do something big. So those would be the two things I would pick out. In terms of weakness of content, think about what's missing from this source. Quite a lot, isn't it? Because like I said, it was hard to pick out what the threat was because it wasn't very specific. So in terms of weakness of content, I'd be saying that it doesn't actually tell us what the SA have got planned for 1934. It doesn't actually tell us why Hitler wants them to go off on holiday, why Hitler thinks that they're such a threat that they need to leave for a bit. So again, it does give you some hints, but it's not very specific, is it? So in terms of it being useful to a historian, I'm already thinking, oh, not that great, because the historian's got to read between the lines a lot. Okay, pick a strength and weakness from the attribution. I picked that it's an announcement by Ernst Röhm, who's the leader of the SA. Do you think that's good or bad? You could go for a bit of both, couldn't you? You could say it's good because as leader of the SA, he would have a really good idea of how they were a threat. But then also as leader of the SA, is he going to make it really obvious that they're a threat? Because if he makes it really obvious, then Hitler's obviously going to kind of try and get rid of them, isn't he? So again, that could be a positive and a negative. He's making this speech on the 7th of June 1934, so it's only a few weeks before the Night of the Long Knives. So in terms of showing us why the SA are a threat in the June of 1934, it's very accurate because it's made in June 1934. Okay, so if you look at the next page, I've broken it down into content strength. What information did the source give us? So pick out the two things that we put there and put it in the box. We picked out that the SA have got some sort of big plan for 1934, which means they're a threat, and that they've been told to go on holiday by Hitler, which means he thinks they're a threat. Content weakness is, it's true, Hitler did do this, but it's not telling us specifically why Hitler thinks they're a threat, and it's not telling us specifically why the plans that Röhm's got for 1934. Who made the source Röhm? We said this is good and bad. When was the source made? June 1934. We said this was good. And what was the purpose of this source? Did Röhm give this speech to educate, entertain, or persuade? I kind of think you lean more towards educate because he's telling them why he's going on leave, but he's also persuading them that this is going to be an important holiday because they've got a big year coming up, so they're a bit of both. So take those notes for me on that side, and then you'll notice that I've written an example CAC paragraph on the other side. So when you're ready, press play and we'll go through the CAC paragraph together. So I'd like you to highlight, please. So the first box is content, strength and weakness, and the second box is attribution, strength and weakness. So CA. I haven't done the last C because remember we're not doing a full CAC paragraph, because to do a conclusion twice and then do a conclusion as your last paragraph. It's a bit of a waste of time. So I've just done content attribution. So I've broken up into content strength in green, content weakness in red. So you can highlight where I've highlighted here. So in terms of my paragraph, you want to pick 2 quotes if you can, and then you want to say how that quote shows us that the essay were a threat in June. So in source E it says that Ernst Röhm and essay leaders are going, quote, on leave. This shows us the essay were a threat and that Hitler wanted to get rid of them. I didn't say that brilliantly, did I? But you know what I mean. The fact that they're going on leave means that Hitler thinks they're a threat. It says this announcement was made after a, quote, long interview with Hitler. This is true as Hitler believed Röhm was becoming more powerful as a leader of the essay and wanted him gone, but he did not want it to look like he had done anything wrong. Okay, so I picked those 2. I could have picked as well that Röhm was saying it's going to be a big year for them, but I just picked those 2 instead. Okay, so I've picked 2 quotes and I've said how they show the essay are a threat. Now I need to say the weakness of the content of this source. However, the source does not mention any specific reason why Hitler wanted the essay to stand down, and here is me showing off my own knowledge to try and get more marks for AO1, such as Röhm's socialist views or how many members of the essay there were in the essay this time. Oh, I could have put there was 4 million, couldn't I? And I could have put a detailed fact in there. But hey ho, this is clearly not a perfect answer. So when you're doing the weakness of the content, it's a really good opportunity for you to say, oh yeah, it leaves out information like that there were 400 million people in the essay and that Röhm was a massive socialist. And in that way, you're using detailed facts and key terms, and that gets you more marks for AO1, which can up your overall marks. So if you're thinking to yourself, I'm not very good at source analysis, but I can definitely remember facts, then that can help you boost your mark. Okay, content, strength and weakness, attribution, strength and weakness. So this time I've put strength in yellow and I've put weakness in red again. The source is an announcement made by Röhm himself. This makes the source accurate to some extent because he was the leader of the essay. However, the purpose of the source is unreliable as he may be lying to his men to prevent them from panicking that the essay are finished. Also, Hitler may have lied to Röhm about the essay going on holiday. The source was made in 1934, just before the Night of the Long Knives. This makes the source accurate in showing why the essay were a threat, as this was the exact time when Hitler believed the threat that they posed was so bad that he ordered the death of many of its leaders. Okay, so I've done strength. I've got at least 1 strength and I've got 2 strengths and 1 weakness from the attribution there, so I know that I've got it fairly balanced. So I just want you to get into the habit of doing that. Okay, even if you do it as 2 separate paragraphs like I did, or you merge those as 1 big paragraph, it honestly doesn't matter, but you want to do content strength, content weakness, attribution strength, attribution weakness. If you have, lots of strength for attribution and 1 weakness like I did, that's fine as long as you've got at least 1 of each. Okay, it might be that it's really hard to find a weakness, and then that's making you, in your conclusion, you would then say, well, that makes this a really good source because I really struggled to find a weakness. Okay, right, do the same thing then for source F, which is part of a press conference given by Hermann Goering. Remember, Goering is the leader of the army. He's the guy that's going to make up the evidence about Röhm that's going to get him arrested. And he's given a speech to the press justifying the Night of the Long Knives. Okay, so read through source F, highlight 2 things in the source that tell you why the essay were a threat, highlight strength and weakness from the attribution, fill in the planning sheet on the next page, and then write your own CAC without the C paragraph. Okay, have a go at doing that. Then you might if you've got space, want to do a conclusion, or you just might want to think about the conclusion in your head. So do you think that Röhm's speech was the best one in telling us why the essay were a threat, or do you think it was Goering's speech? And you need to give me 2 reasons why. Okay, now because I've done that one for you, that's kind of just like a practice. You're welcome to take a picture of that and send it to me so I can just check that you're doing it right. But then I'm going to give you a whole new question to do on the Reichstag fire, which is the last 2 pages of the booklet, where you have to do both sources from scratch and do a conclusion. So there are revision videos of this on the exam questions playlist on CCPC History YouTube page. So you just have to look at how to do a CAC paragraph on there. Feel free to watch the last part of this clip over and over again feel free to email me if you get super stuck. But for the exam question that I want you to do and send to me so I can give you a mark, it's the one at the back that says, I think it's on